In 1982, a sequel arrived that made its predecessor look tame. Taboo II didn't just cross boundaries, it obliterated them entirely. Featuring Kay Parker's unforgettable return and Honey Wilder's most daring performance, this film became the most controversial and commercially successful adult feature of the early 80s. But behind the scandal was something audiences didn't expect. Genuine artistry, complex performances shot on 35mm film, and a story that 4 decades later still generates fierce debate. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the making of Taboo II, revealing the cast, the creative decisions, and the cultural firestorm that cemented its legendary status. This is the untold story of how one film dared to go further than anyone thought possible. What makes Taboo II fascinating isn't just its content, it's the collision of worlds it represented. Here was a film that took the darkest themes from the edges of cinema and wrapped them in the comforting aesthetic of suburban family drama. By 1982, adult cinema was transforming. The theatrical porno chic era was dying, and home video was rising. But Taboo II still carried the DNA of that earlier golden age. It was shot on film, meticulously scripted by returning writer Helene Terrie, and featured performances that demanded genuine emotional depth. Following the shocking commercial success of the original Taboo in 1980, director Kirdy Stevens returned with a simple philosophy: go further. Every element that made the first film infamous was amplified. The production values increased, the performances deepened, and the willingness to explore forbidden psychological territory expanded dramatically. What resulted was a film that didn't just push buttons, it rewired them entirely. The connective tissue between the two films was Kay Parker's return as Barbara Scott. While no longer the central figure, Parker's presence functions as a bridge, a reminder that the controversial dynamics depicted weren't isolated incidents, but part of a disturbing pattern. By 1982, Kay Parker had become synonymous with the Taboo franchise. Her performance in the original had shocked audiences, not through exaggeration, but through devastating restraint. She played her character with such visible internal conflict that viewers couldn't look away, however uncomfortable it made them. In Taboo II, Parker brings that same gravitas to every frame she occupies. There's a weariness to her performance, as if her character has lived with the consequences of the first film and found a way, however uneasily, to accept them. Even in limited screen time, her scenes carry enormous weight. From a business perspective, Parker's involvement was brilliant marketing. Her name had become a genuine draw, but beyond commerce, her presence lends the sequel emotional continuity and a sense of legacy that grounds even its most outrageous narrative swings. She wasn't just returning for a paycheck, she was deepening a character arc that had already shocked the world. If Kay Parker provided the sequel's link to the past, Honey Wilder was its beating heart. Known throughout the early 80s for playing sultry yet emotionally nuanced characters, Wilder delivers what many consider her finest performance as Joyce McBride. She begins the film utterly repressed, disconnected from her husband, exhausted by suburban routine, going through the motions of a life that stopped feeling real years ago. There's a brilliant early sequence where we simply watch her perform domestic tasks, preparing meals no one appreciates, cleaning spaces that immediately become messy again, existing in a marriage that resembles adjacent loneliness more than partnership. But as the film progresses, Joyce's transformation becomes the movie's most compelling arc. Wilder doesn't play this as a sudden break from reality. Instead, she shows us a woman gradually shedding decades of social conditioning, peeling back layers of shoulds and supposed tos until something raw emerges. It's a fearless, layered performance. Wilder had the acting chops to bring genuine emotion to scenarios that could easily have collapsed into exploitation. She makes you understand Joyce's psychology even when you can't condone her choices. She remains recognizably human, confused, conflicted, and ultimately complicit in ways that make the film far more disturbing than simple shock tactics ever could. This wasn't just another role for Honey Wilder. It was a career-defining performance that showcased exactly what separated Golden Age adult cinema from everything that came after. The McBride family was completed by Eric Edwards as Greg, the failing patriarch whose affair and eventual relationship transformation with his daughter turns him into a symbol of collapsed morality. Edwards, already a legend by the early 80s, brings unexpected gravitas to a role that easily could have become parody. Dorothy LeMay plays Sherry with an unsettling blend of innocence and calculation, while Kevin James as her brother Junior brings a cocky arrogance that makes their dynamic impossibly tense. Supporting players include the wickedly charismatic Juliet Anderson, fresh-faced newcomer Bambi in her feature debut, and a brief appearance from Ron Jeremy. What's remarkable is how seriously everyone takes their roles. These aren't winking performances. The entire cast commits fully to the emotional reality of their characters, which is precisely what makes the film work on the level it does. Behind the camera, director Kirdy Stevens understood that for the transgressive elements to land with genuine impact, everything else needed to feel grounded and real. The cinematography, the pacing, the editing, all worked to create an atmosphere that felt simultaneously familiar and deeply unsettling. Production was centered in Encino, California. The San Fernando Valley's anonymous suburban streets provided the perfect backdrop. Stevens wanted this to feel close to home, and he succeeded. Documented locations include Ventura Boulevard and the intersection of Balboa Boulevard and Haines Street, completely ordinary American suburbia, which made the content all the more provocative. Upon release in 1982, Taboo II ignited instant controversy. Explicit content alone wasn't new, but its specific themes and refusal to soften them made the film infamous. Critics claimed it crossed lines even adult cinema shouldn't cross, while defenders argued it was transgressive fantasy framed as serious storytelling. Either way, it became a film people couldn't stop arguing about. Commercially, it was a major success. Strong home video sales and relentless notoriety pushed it far beyond the usual adult audience. Some of the film's most shocking moments weren't even in the original script, they were added during production, a bold decision that transformed Taboo II from a sequel into a statement. Decades later, its reputation has evolved. Still controversial, the film is now increasingly recognized for its craft, ambition, and historical significance. While many sequels followed, none captured the same intensity. By the mid-82nd, the golden age was fading, and films like Taboo II became the exception, not the rule. Taboo II stands as a final, defiant chapter in an era when adult cinema believed it could tell complex stories with real performances and psychological depth. More than 40 years later, it still provokes debate, a rare feat for any film. Whether viewed as bold art or exploitation taken too far, one thing is certain: Taboo II refuses to be forgotten. It's the story of filmmakers who push boundaries with conviction, wrap controversy in genuine craft, and left behind a film that still demands to be discussed. If you enjoy these deep dives into Golden Age cinema, hit like. Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold stories from the films that defined an era.